Today, the beverage aisle looks a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering the options everyone wants. In fact, nearly 60% of beverages Americans buy have zero sugar. You'll find more variety than ever, including more of your favorites, now available with zero sugar. You'll also find more sizes and clear calorie information on the front of every can, bottle, and pack. We know when it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
Virginia, and the particular parts of Virginia closest to Washington, D.C., have probably been hit the hardest by the Trump administration. Virginia is home to some 150,000 federal employees and countless contractors. Joining me for an assessment, Virginia Senator Mark Warner. Senator Warner, good to have you back.
Tom, thanks so much for having me.
And, well, let's begin with the big question. Is the Republic going to survive here?
I hope so. But it is amazing when I get questions out on the road that say, all right, what do we do if martial law is declared? Or are there really going to be elections in 2026? In past times, you would say, well, that's just, that's even a crazy premise. Unfortunately, in terms of the level of change and disruption, you got to treat those questions seriously now. So I think we will get through, but boy, it could be a bumpy road for the next few months.
And close as the majority for the Republicans is in the House and the Senate, Congress kind of looks paralyzed these days.
It does. I mean, I've been particularly disappointed. I really love my time on the Intelligence Committee. It's always been truly bipartisan. We took Biden to task when he screwed up. We took Trump in the first term to task. So far, my Republican colleagues have been silent, even though we've seen this misuse of classified information. We've seen, senior members of the Intelligence Committee fired without warning or need. So I got to believe something's going to break, and whether it comes from the top down on a national security issue or whether it bubbles up from the grassroots where people are concerned about potential Medicaid cuts or some of the economic development projects we've worked on for years have all been put on hold because the new administration has frozen grants that were already awarded. So it's a pretty screwy time.
And I want to talk about those federal employees in especially, but not exclusively, Northern Virginia. And you talk to any Fed at this point, and it does seem, as you said at the outset, like we're on totally new ground, kind of Martian terrain here. And the state has done some things for federal employees. Maryland has done a few things. D.C. has tried. But there's not a lot, really, Congress or those entities can do, especially because the contractor safety net is really not there as much as it was.
Absolutely. And, Congress could do more if, as you said, we only need 4 votes in the Senate or 3 or 4 votes in the House to basically say, no, Mr. President, just because you don't like program X or Y, if Congress has fully appropriated money, you can't just pull it back with another executive order. That, if Congress doesn't exert its will, then why even have a Congress? So it is, I think, existential for my constituents. It's been traumatizing, to say the least. The new OMB director, Russ Vought, has said in Project 2025 he wanted to traumatize the federal workforce. He's done a pretty damn good job of that. But it's not just the workers. I was down in Roanoke last week, and a business guy was talking about his 26-year-old daughter who'd taken a job with the Defense Department, and she didn't know if she was going to get riffed or not. So it affects whole families. But we in Northern Virginia have taken it probably the hardest. Hampton Roads down in Norfolk and
Sure.
News, that area is literally like the 3rd or 4th largest concentration of federal workers as well. We got 51,000 workers and contractors. So this is the point of the spear. And I think as this continued chaotic approach to cutting programs, it's going to spread across the country. But I feel a lot of compassion for our federal workforce who've done a good job and then arbitrarily being fired. I heard from 2 ladies at the FDA the other day. They were both not new employees. I think they'd been both between 10 and 15 years there. They worked for the smoking cessation program, youth smoking cessation, and they don't get any federal dollars at all. It's all funded by the entities that are regulated by the FDA. And because they cut back kids smoking, they've been able to show they had saved the taxpayer about $35 billion. Yet they got fired with no notice, no kind of plan. And, they very compassionately asked, well, how do I go look for a job if I can't afford child care since I don't have a job at this point? And, these folks, and these are two of literally thousands and thousands of stories that I hear all the time.
And those that will still have a federal job are worried about that reconciliation bill, which would cut the FEHBP contribution by the government and also cap and simply give a voucher to federal employees. Presumably the difference then would be made up by the employee after the voucher. So it looks like FEHBP healthcare plans are going to cost more, and annuity contributions will go up for everybody under some provisions in there. Are those just destined to become law, do you think?
Again, the rubber hits the road when this reconciliation plan gets to the floor of the House and the Senate. The truth is, no Democrat's going to vote for it, because it also not only sticks it to federal workers on healthcare benefits and pensions, but it also, I think at the end of the day, will dramatically cut Medicaid, which will, close hospitals across rural America. So it'll, again, only take a couple of Republicans who say, this is just too much. And getting back to the federal workforce, the vast majority of federal workers do this because they feel this is a public service calling. And there was a deal made, when you sign up, you sign up for a certain patch of benefits as well, and know that if you work hard, unless there's some major crisis, you're going to get what you were promised. The fact that all of these promises now seem to be going up in smoke, it just makes worries the heck out of me. Who's going to want to go? What young person's going to want to go work for the federal government if you don't have any job security and you're not even sure that the benefits that are promised on day one will be there 2 years later?
We're speaking with Virginia Senator Mark Warner. And then there's some of the governmental business issues, which I know you've watched over the years. Procurement, very important to Northern Virginia and really throughout Virginia in point of fact. And there's this FAR rewrite, which doesn't seem to be involving the FAR Council, and a lot of contractors concerned that they'll have any input in that. What's your thought there, and what are you looking for?
This would have been an area, candidly, especially on DoD contracting, a smart Doge, not an Elon Musk with a bunch of tech bros coming in, but a smart Doge might have come in and said with contracting, hey, we need to give the contract officers more ability to write their contracts. There ought to be more fixed price. There ought to be things like I would have supported reform if two contractors are suing each other after an award to actually have loser pay to try to cut down on extra litigation. We could have saved money. I think, frankly, the federal government could have probably gotten better value, but instead it appears that what they're doing is moving towards a much more politicized system where an administration could pick winners and losers not based upon value to the taxpayer. That ought to scare the dickens out of all of us.
And, of course, you mentioned your particular love right now of the intelligence work. The intelligence community seems to be in as much turmoil as the Pentagon seems to be right now, at a time when it's more important than ever for the basic mission here of national security. Your thoughts?
You're right. And you see, like, when the director of national intelligence refuses to even acknowledge that what kind of phone she was using on the chat, the signal chat that had, I feel, classified information on it, when nobody gets held accountable, when we just heard the Secretary of Defense had another chat with his family members putting out this kind of classified information. And it just robs the community of the faith that they need that the leadership's going to be straight with them. And when they came in and arbitrarily fired the head of the NSA, General Hawk, guy with enormous credibility, he'd served under Democrats and Republican presidents, that undermines credibility. And what I'm particularly worried about as well is not only our own IC community, which we have a lot of, as you know, here in the DMV, but the fact is, will any of our allies trust us with classified information if they feel like we're not going to keep it secure? Some of the damage that's being done, Tom, that's so frustrating is it's even if the administration reverse course tomorrow, it has broken trust with our workforce. It's broken trust with our allies and friends. Candidly, with the all over the lot tariff policies, it's broken faith with the business community. When people start to think you can't count on the United States government to do what it says, you know you got a problem.
Well, it's going to be interesting when the next debt ceiling question comes up.
Yeah, that will be it'll be interesting to see. The speculation is that our Republican friends may try to put that into the reconciliation bill, but we'll see.
All right. Well, listen, I want to tell you I've enjoyed our conversations over the years, and it's been great having you as a member of the Federal Drive. My successor, Terry Gerton, will be calling out. but she's going to be the next one that you speak to.
Well, Tom, thank you. I understand 46 years of journalism in your personal history. You've been I think a great advocate for federal workforces, for contractors, for the folks that you guys communicate with. There aren't that many tools out there, and we wish you the best. I wish you the best in retirement and look forward to getting to know Terry.
All right. Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Hear the Federal Drive on demand. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.